An entertaining, informative, educational guest, and this week we have it's a very timely guest that we have, is Bill Morales, and he is a Cuban American who has been in the country since 50 years. For 50 years you've been here?
57.
Since 1957, so
Yeah.
maybe I'm a little off
60.
there, 60 years,
60
yeah.
years.
We don't want to give too much away. And math doesn't count here, so for 60 years you've been in the United States. You came here when you were 10, is that right? Almost 10, or
I was 10.
so it's almost 60 years. And it was prior to Fidel Castro's fight for power. He was fighting at the time, but he hadn't gained power till 1959.
59, yeah, July.
But he had been in the hills. We hear a lot about the hills and him fighting up there. Was it like Tora Bora? Are these large mountains? Or?
The large mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were they recreational at one time, and he decided to go up
No,
and hide?
no, it was never recreational. It was
Never?
just-
Oh, okay. So your family came here before the actual overthrow of the Batista government.
That's correct.
And speaking of the Batista government, now you were only 10 when you left. Did you go back while Batista was still in power?
No.
Okay. So when you went back, Castro was in power.
Castro was in power.
And they didn't mind you coming back because
No,
you were a natural born citizen.
Right.
And so Batista, you probably heard a lot about, because at 10 years old, a person isn't really what you would say politically aware.
Oh, I was.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So was Batista on your bad list? He was
He was
corrupt?
oh yeah. And he used to kill a lot of people, take them out of the house at night.
Oh, that's
He
terrible.
was,
And those were the people that might have opposed him.
yeah.
So you really couldn't talk about
No, you couldn't talk.
your opposition to him. And so did you hear of the opposition? Now, from what I've read, it was a very small band of resistance fighters that overthrew him. It's like Castro had like 200 people or something.
When he first started, I don't think he had 100.
Right, he didn't.
Then
He
he
had
got
80.
more
Yeah,
people
yeah.
involved.
But it wasn't a real big force that took him. And so you came over here, 57. At the Hop was popular. Did you get American music down there?
Yeah, I used to get American music.
Yeah, well, Danny and the Juniors, I was at dances back in those days, church dances. And 1957, Danny and the Juniors did At the Hop, very, very popular song. And the next year, La Bamba.
La Bamba, yeah.
Did you have that down there, popular back then?
Yeah, it was popular back then.
Wow, that's fantastic. And the man who sang it, I think he was Mexican. And he couldn't speak, maybe he was Mexican descent.
Well, I don't know, but
Richie Valens sang it up here
Yeah,
in this
yeah.
version. But there was Mexican
Mexican,
versions too
right.
for a long time before that, for they say 1800s. So back then, I remember the Spanish people were very endeared to the American people because of that song. That song brought the Spanish culture to 10-year-olds in this country and to adults, and so it was a great time in the 50s. They didn't talk about much back then except how to keep safe from a nuclear war. They hide under the desk, they told us. So those were quite some times for us too. Then you came with your family in 1957. How many people?
there was, I got my parents and a brother. My father came in 10 months before, and he needed to be sponsored, which he had over here. And I had a sister and her husband, and they moved to the United States in 1937.
Wow.
And so he got sponsored. He had a job already. He had a place to stay, and that's the only way you can get here back then.
Wow.
And we came out here 10 months later.
Uh-huh. And now, I think I recall you saying your family had like 400 acres of land.
We had over 400 acres of land that Castro took
Wow.
in the 60s.
Oh, so that was because of communism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we saw that Oh, and I say we. I don't know anyone. I haven't met anyone that has seen.
That property was in the family since the late 1800s.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible to lose that. But he lost it after he had already moved. Who was watching it while you all were in the
Well, my two uncles.
Yeah, and was it a battle to get it, or did they just sign it over because Castro said?
No, they just took it over. They had no choice.
Wow.
Yeah, in the 60s.
And so every landowner.
They took everything. Whatever own land they took.
Wow, that's just terrible. And 400 acres like that, doesn't that kind of mean that your family was well off with that amount of land?
We weren't poor. We grew everything, and we had a couple like 200 acres of sugar cane that we sold, and so we never went to a store unless we needed salt.
Oh, that's
We
fantastic.
had everything.
What a way to live.
Yeah.
What a way to live. That must have been wonderful.
Yeah.
So you farmed, because that's how you grow sugar cane and all your vegetables and so forth. Did you have animals too?
Oh, we had all kinds of animals. We had a cow, we had horses, we had all kinds of animals.
Wow. Imagine having that here. Western Nurseries, as large as it is, and as large as the nursery property was before Roy bought it, it was 615 acres. And you had 400.
Yeah.
That's an amazing amount of land. Did you sell some to the markets?
No, we wouldn't sell any to anybody.
But you had enough for yourselves and
We had
maybe
plenty, yeah.
maybe some neighbors or something?
We used to, neighbors, they come in and give them stuff if they needed some.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Because we grew everything. We didn't need to
Yeah.
go to a store or anything.
So do you have you have a little garden here?
My father always grew a garden over here.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Oh,
he
that's
had
great.
everything.
That's
Yeah.
great. So, when did you become a citizen?
Came to citizen in 1966, I believe.
Did you ever have any, you must have had some kind of anger toward Castro for taking your land, huh?
I still do.
Yeah, oh really, yeah. Well, that's terrible to
Yeah.
have to live with that and not have it reversed. There are people, have people sued the government over there from here, Cubans?
No, there's
No.
nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do because it's what it is now.
That is what it is.
Yeah, that's a shame. This country's opening up relations with them now. It's a far cry from the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right.
Do you know what year that was? Is that 62?
62,
Yeah.
because I was there and I went back in 61 for
Oh.
vacation.
Oh, no kidding. That's fantastic. And then you decided to join the Army.
I went in the Army in December of 66.
Oh, 66, yeah. Well, in 62, there were, for the youngsters, and you might want to check my date on that, but in 62, I believe, was when President Kennedy was informed that there were missiles being ready to launch
Right.
in Cuba. And these missiles were going to be targeting the United States. These are nuclear missiles we're talking about. This is the real thing. And President Nikita Khrushchev was in power then, and he was basically testing the mettle of young John F. Kennedy as president, see how far he could go. We see today that they bother our ships with fighter jets. Have you seen that where they fly at it and they do a 90-degree turn and harass our ships at sea, which is a dangerous and risky proposition. It is if you think about it, one of these times that jet might be armed, and there might be 25 of them throughout the world doing the same thing. This time, they're not kidding. So that's the kind of thing that the president has to think about. And John F. Kennedy met with his advisors as our U-2 spy planes
Right.
went over the island of Cuba and took photos. They brought them to the president to show him, and they explained to the president what each one meant, and also identified the anti-aircraft positions. And they killed an American pilot. Didn't they kill him? They shot him down at least.
Yeah, they shot him down.
I think they killed him too, because President Kennedy, in documentaries about his meetings, he said that that we don't want to make the mistake of World War I, plunging the entire world into war over the death of one man, which was, and forgive me for not remembering his name, but he was a U.S. Air Force U-2 pilot, and the U-2 was the spy plane that took, I wonder how big that roll of film was, because the way they used to do it,
Yeah.
you know what, they would have this big roll of undeveloped film, and the way they took the photo was to have it in a canister and have a slit in the canister, and so the film was exposed through that slit, and the barrel turned to match the speed of the plane. So it was like laying down an image across the whole island of Cuba, and they would look at it, and they would, you know, with their spy glasses or their microscope glasses, and they could see just what was going on. What President Kennedy, remember what he did? He pulled the ships toward. He said we're having a blockade, which is extraordinary because a blockade is an act of war in all cases, as is, you know, blocking a river that feeds another country, blocking a shipping lane. It's an act of war, and he did that to stop the transportation of more missiles to Cuba. Were you on either side of that? Were you rooting for anything? Because you were like
I was running for
15
to stop, yeah.
yeah, you were 15, and you were here.
I was here,
Yeah.
but I had, you know, a lot of relatives in Cuba.
Yeah. Well, the Soviet missiles would have been pointed at
Well, they would have gone
at
in.
Miami.
Yeah,
Well, I shouldn't laugh because that's a very serious business. And so that's the kind of brinkmanship that went on in 60 years ago between the United States and the Soviet Union, which was Russia and all of its satellites combined into a legal entity. So you, what was the first thing you did when you came over to the United States?
first thing I did was start school right away. And we met a couple of friends that were still great friends. They lived down the street. And I met one of them, Fred Harris. Second day I was here, then I met his brother. We've been friends ever since.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Hopkinton, I'll tell you, the first time I came to Hopkinton, I think I was working in Western Nurseries back in 1970 or so. And I sat down at Brown Smith's, and people talked to you like they knew you forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, back then,
yeah.
everybody knew.
Everybody knew everybody
Yeah.
else, right? And they were just so. I never met a friendlier bunch than the townies in
Yeah.
Hopkinton. They're just open arms. And so, did you play on any sports teams?
I played football and baseball.
And high school, same thing.
Yeah, I played in high school. Then I went to Keith Tech.
What'd you do
I
there?
was from him vocational.
Yeah,
I started automotive. I was there for 2 years.
yeah.
And
Did you
then
like that? Did you go into the field?
I did it for a while.
Yeah,
And then I came back to Hopkins.
yeah. Oh, I see. You came back to the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keith. What are they doing today? Do you know? Do they have? I'm sure they upgraded because heck, 20, 30 years ago, I took a night class in computers. So, you know, that's cutting edge stuff.
But one of my grandsons went there, graduated from Keith Tech.
What?
And
What course of study?
he was in Bacon.
Ah. Oh, that yeah. They've always had a really good,
Yeah, they do.
a really good culinary course there. They used to have nursing too, but they don't anymore, as far as I know.
Well, they got so many different things now. So.
Yeah, Keith Tech, great place. And the town is, let's see, there's Hopkinton, Holliston. Is Holliston in it? And Framingham's in it?
Natick, I believe.
Natick too, Southborough?
No.
No? So what, if you were in charge back in 1957, what would you have done yourself? You know, I don't mean as a 10-year-old, I mean back then, seeing how things were. I suppose I should backtrack a bit and ask you about the health care. Do you know about the health care on that island? A lot of people claim it's improved greatly.
Well, they do have, and it's free too. They do have care. I have a cousin that's a doctor,
Oh,
and so he was out of the country most of the time.
uh-huh.
Now he's back to Cuba.
No kidding. He's
Yeah.
back there because he wants to help. He wants to help people.
Well, they just government. He worked for the government, and they
Oh,
brought him back.
oh, and so, was he a doctor here too?
No, he never
Never
left
practiced. Oh, I see. He never left Cuba. Oh, I may be confused, but
Well,
that's.
I have one of my father's cousin. He came over here. He lived with us for a while, and he was a dentist in Florida.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So they've achieved great heights.
Yeah.
Now, the health care, a lot of people that argue against nationalized health in this country and against Obamacare, and I'm not trying to get into politics, but what I am saying is that the people that argue against national health care in this country say that all the others are a mess. So Canada's a mess, Cuba's a mess, but I keep reading from people that have experienced it that it's a very good healthcare system and it's free.
Yeah.
And so, what could be better than that? Are there not enough doctors, or why would anyone argue against that?
Well, they got doctors, but they don't even. They work as waiters. They work in restaurants
Oh, really?
because they make more money.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Oh, because the national health care doesn't pay them?
No, they just they make more money by working in hotels.
Oh my goodness! And they got to go to school for 20 years or whatever it is for a
Yeah.
doctor these days, and that's too bad. But I don't think that would happen in this country. Although, for instance, Medicare, an old person like myself is on Medicare, and so what we do is we get this cut rate price, as you may know.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
A heart operation might cost $50,000, but people who are on Medicaid, the government cuts that severely, what they will pay the doctor, and but the person has to pay 20%. But it's not 20% of 50,000; it's 20% of whatever they determine they want to pay.
Right.
And it's such a big payer that the doctors that want to be on, on that usually take it. Now, Castro was in the hills. Did you know about it when you were there in 1957, that he was in the hills
Oh
gathering?
yeah, we know. Yeah, we know.
Yeah, and that must have been pretty frightening, though, not knowing. And it was such a small band of people.
Well,
It's amazing how they could take
yeah,
over the country.
he had a good place to hide,
Yeah.
and people helped him out too.
Now, I recall seeing Ed Sullivan, and nobody else was in the room, or they probably would have switched the station, but Ed Sullivan had Castro on. And what a great guy. He was
Yeah.
telling everybody, oh, this man's wonderful, he's just taking the reins of Cuba. But then, it's probably, I don't know, it was next time he talked about Castro, he was a terrible man, he was a communist,
Yeah.
because I guess he disguised his intentions.
Oh, he was right from day one.
He was a communist from day one?
He was communist from day one.
Oh, but he didn't tell Ed Sullivan.
No, he didn't tell anybody.
Oh, gee. So, now Castro has died. He died a few days ago. When did they? Oh, they spread his ashes in the mountains where he fought.
Well, they took
Oh,
him
we
there.
did.
They took him there yesterday,
Yeah.
and so I know what they're gonna do with him.
Oh, they took his ashes there.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
had a jeep for their thing, and they were heading out.
Oh, well, they were supposed to scatter them.
Yeah.
I think I
I
heard
don't know.
that.
I didn't say.
Yeah. So you're still pretty mad. Are there other people that are very, very angry that you know?
Well, there's other people that I know. They're not happy.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost a lot.
And so there's the Cuban Missile Crisis we just touched on, when the Soviet Union was trying to stuff Cuba with nuclear missiles to our detriment, that would have been used in a war with the Soviet Union. Now the Bay of Pigs, that was another fiasco. For any youngsters that might be watching, Bay of Pigs was an invasion, some say sponsored by the CIA, of Cuba, of a beachhead, and President Kennedy was had only been in office a short time,
Right, yeah.
because that was a plan launched when President Eisenhower was in power, and the next president to take power in an election was President John F. Kennedy. Once the operation began, President Kennedy, I'm told, I'm not getting political about it, but I remember reading that they said he withheld the air support.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah, for the invasion. And it was, the people invading were actually Cubans
Cubans, yeah.
and mercenaries, some people they hired maybe.
Probably, I don't know.
Yeah, and Castro's forces. surround-
I went by there, after I moved back to Cuba, after the invasion, and it's all swamp. They didn't have a prayer.
Oh, no kidding. Why would they? They didn't know the land?
They knew, it was coming.
Yeah.
They just waited for them.
Oh, right. Oh, a little breach in
Yeah,
loyalty there, huh? Somebody talked.
that's what I think, somebody's talking, because
Yeah.
they were waiting for them.
Right. That's generally how that works. But and I don't mean to laugh again. It's just a real fiasco that would happen. A great power like the United States, and all of a sudden a ragtag band of revolutionaries stops the force. So, looking back, I think once again I would say, what would you do? If you were an adult in 1957, I've never heard of anyone taking up arms against Castro.
I wouldn't know, but
Yeah.
done, no idea.
Yeah. So, so your community, how far does your community extend? You know people, other people in Massachusetts from Cuba.
I know some people in, like, Grafton. I know a few, not too many around here,
Yeah.
because they all, a lot of them moved back to Florida.
Oh no. Oh, because the Cuban community is so strong
Yeah,
in Florida.
so, I don't know how they feel.
So you went to Keefe, you went back to Hopkinton, and you never really left. Well, let's see. What you went somewhere for Wonder Bread. You worked at Wonder Bread. Now that was a union.
That was after, yeah.
Is that after the school? Or,
Yeah.
after you worked there, or
That was-
before?
No, it was after I got out of the Army in
Oh, okay.
'69.
Wonder Bread. That was a great place to work. Not necessarily because of the smell of bread, but the money.
Money
It was a
good.
union.
Yeah, it was
And,
great.
there are very few unions around anymore.
Yeah, I was supervisor there.
And you're a supervisor, which that was a good pay too, I bet. Were you in the union as a supervisor?
No,
You had to quit the union to.
I was never in the union,
Oh, I see. Oh,
but they, whenever they got a pay raise, we got a pay raise too.
well, that's fantastic.
You
So unions, my dad used to call them necessary evils.
know, yeah,
He said he didn't like unions, but he paid dues himself. So, and then after 16 or so years,
they moved to Maine,
Uh-huh.
and I came to the high school. It was high school then. Bob Strait called me, said, "You looking for a job?" I said, "Not really." And I went and started working there, and
Wow.
I never left.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I became head custodian. I was there, I don't know, 10, 12 years.
So you spent 24 years in high school, basically.
Probably, no, not that. Not
Well,
that
you
long.
had right,
not
because
that
high
long.
school's
Yeah.
really only 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the other 8 years too, but that's inaccurate, incorrect. That's that math thing again. So it sounds like it was, you've had a great time here in America. Now, I mean, this may sound like a silly question, because of a lot of the answers you've given me, and I may have asked it in a different way. Where would you rather have grown up?
Well, I was young, so I used to go back to Cuba, so I don't know, I'm probably here.
Yeah. So, yeah, you don't know anyone, not a lot of people are there anymore, but it sounds like you had a great life there, and the man who just passed away robbed your family of everything.
Right.
Do you feel bad for his death?
No.
No, okay. A lot of people don't either, because they got robbed too.
Oh, yeah.
So, so you did get robbed, and because your family is well off with landowners, then I would assume that there's no circumstances where you would like to see that kind of thing happen again.
No.
No. So, what does Fidel have for relatives? Do you know?
I think he's got a son that I know of,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
What does the son do? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Yeah. And I wonder if they had any wealth. I wonder if they amassed wealth while they were in power.
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to know, because some of the communists, once they get in, they collect wealth.
Oh, yeah.
And to heck with communism. Communism's for everybody else, I guess,
Right.
except the leaders. So you've done well here, and you retired from the schools?
From the school.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So Bill Morales has been letting us. So what else could you tell us before we end? What do you think? Anything else? Beware. Is there something we covered and didn't finish? Because I do a lot of that stuff.
No, it's just, I don't know, always it was different, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So you've accepted it. You've adapted to life in the United States.
I have 3 daughters here.
3 beautiful daughters.
And 3 grandsons.
And 3 grandsons. And so life is good.
Yep.
And we're not going to give Fidel Castro any best wishes or any of that stuff.
No.
He's gone. The Cuban people will be better off as the United States continues to make more inroads in the diplomatic sense with Cuba. We'd like to thank Bill Morales of Hopkinton for being with us and talking about his experience as a Cuban American. Did we touch upon Korea? You fought in Korea.
I was in Korea for a year.
Well, that same kind of thing happened to my grandfather. He came over from Ireland at 7 years old. 10 years later, they sent him over to France with a rifle in his hands.
Yeah, I went to Houston for a year.
Yeah.
And then I joined the PFL National. I'm commanded 3 times there.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen you a lot there when we used to do entertainment over there.
Yeah. Been a member there for 40 years.
Wow, that's fantastic. How about Rick Smith? Is he still doing
Rick Smith's still there.
Yeah, he's still doing the catering and so forth?
And not as much. He's had health problems.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
No, he's doing fine now.
Mm. So
great cook.
now with isn't he though? I love the spaghetti sauce. So as you moved here and you've become assimilated, you had an easy time getting to know the culture and the country.
Oh yeah.
You know, I kind of wish we had La Bamba queued up on the board, because that's an appropriate exit for us. Again, I'd like to thank Bill Morales for stopping by and sharing his experiences about the Cuban Revolution, the overthrow of Fidel Castro, the robbing of his family's land by the communist regime, and also his sharing that he's retired and spends a lot of time with grandchildren, maybe?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So thank you to Bill. And we'll have another guest next week at this time at 6 p.m. Next Friday. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching.